most of what was written or is left behind is what people who were against the Phoenicians usually wrote, and that's going to lead into the first character that I'm wanting to talk about, and he is known as Eusebius of Caesarea, and he lived between 260 to 341 AD. He's also known as Eusebia
Hmm.
Pampili. He
So
was a bishop.
there's going to be some sort of bias, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, there is going to be bias. And the reason for that is because of what me and Robot was discussing. There really isn't very much information when it comes to
Hmm.
Phoenician history. The thing about it is there's literally nothing in Phoenician that is about their culture, about their society or anything. It was pretty much destroyed by the um, people who were opposing them, and the reason for that was like there was a really big war back then that took place between the Phoenicians and the Greeks. And the Greeks were notorious for doing that whenever they had enemies, like the Persians, for example. They did the same with them. They would try to destroy everything that pertained to them. And you can see that all over history, where societies and cultures have destroyed their enemies' literature and stuff of that nature. But basically, that's what happened. For us to get any proper kind of information, we've actually had to dig into uh, the records of those enemies that of the Phoenicians and kind of get like little quotations here and little quotations there, or fragments of information that pertains to them. Um, it's sad to say, but yeah, a lot of that information is gone, and the only thing that we have to go off of is the Phoenicians' enemies themselves, who did what they did with the text and stuff like that concerning the Phoenicians. So um, that's kind of what I'm gonna go into with the first person that I'm about ready to talk about.
So there's no, because I'm looking now, just listening to you, and then I'm like looking at the map, and because like I know I'm more familiar just based off of the stuff that you've been talking about in regards to their culture. Excuse me, hold on. Most High bless you. And then I'm more regards into that, like familiarity. But when it comes to like exactly who they are and their history, just in general, I have no, like I said, no call. And then I'm looking at it because they have like hieroglyphics here, and they're close to Egypt, but it looks like they're more part of Asia. Is that right? Or because it looks, how can they be so close?
Yeah, the Phoenicians were mostly located up near Greece. You know where Greece is? It's right up around there, around Turkey
Yeah, I see
in
that
that
here.
area.
Yeah, Greece, and then it's like Anatolia or something. But then like where it's showing it is like it. So it says Lebanon. That's what it says. Okie dokie.
Yeah, that's actually like the heartland of, or the center of their kingdom.
That's what I see here. It's like three different maps. Like this is weird.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
heard of the Iliads, but Troy was a part of the Phoenician Empire, and it was located right there in that general area. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, the Iliads. I had to read that in school. The Iliads. That's the only reason I am familiar with that. But that I only we only read the Iliads. We didn't read the whole book. Just,
So yeah, the thing about um, the Phoenician Empire is it was huge. It covered a lot of area from that area that I just mentioned to Carthian, and there was a lot of different conflicts that took place. I think there was like 3 wars between Greece and Phoenicia, maybe 2, but a lot of the information got screwed up. Basically, it got destroyed, and it took um, a lot of people coming together and piecing a lot of fragments of information together that was most or pretty much all from the Greek who were against them, and like things did get pretty messed up on information. Like I mentioned Sitchin before, and like Sitchin, everybody believed took his information off of the Sumerians, but he even said it in an interview that it was off of the Hittites, which in reality they found out later it was actually Phoenician history, and the Phoenicians and the Hittites back then their stories kind of got intertwined with one another, and people got them confused.
okay, so how do we differentiate? Like, how do we know for certain? Like, where is it where we can kind of like I would like to say directly trace. I know there's always going to be a little bit of waves, but I mean, like, how, if it's getting mixed up and signals are getting crossed, okay, see, they have stones here, the Hittites do. They have, yeah, I see that. So that kind of talking about, so, but they're different. And that's probably how they were able to just go ahead and say these are them. And then, but still with the Phoenicians not having any real information, that's really interesting. Something, there's a reason for that. Because everyone has a little bit of something. Like they disappeared without a trace.
No, it's quite the opposite. They didn't really disappear without a trace. You have to understand something. There was a lot of animosity between the Greeks and the Phoenicians. It actually spanned for a pretty lengthy amount of time. I think there was 3, maybe 2 wars between them, and in this time, there was a lot of animosity that built up, like I said, and you know, uh, Greece. Everybody makes it out like Greece is always like the good guys, and that's because most of Western society is built on Greece beliefs, and stuff like that, belief backgrounds, history, and the truth is Greece had repeatedly done this to people. They would their enemies, if they had a problem with their enemies, they would decimate them, and not only decimated them, but they wanted to get rid of everything. They wanted to get rid of their history, their stories, everything. But the only thing is the harder as hard as they tried to do this, they couldn't get rid of it. It actually blended into their beliefs. So you have a lot of
Right,
Phoenician
especially when you think about
uh, myths and
God, I can't
the
remember that.
history blended in with Greek history, which also happened in Egypt as well. And no matter how much they tried, but they did try. They tried their damnedest to just make them vanish from the face of the earth and never exist. Um, and it took a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's just like traditional history is so misinforming.
So you need to understand that a lot of the things that we've been taught all throughout our time and before that, up to
Hmm.
this point has been basically taught out of Greek mythology, Greek traditions, and we have a society that's been raised up on learning Greek history and Greek thought since that time period, when in fact there was a lot more history that should have been available to people when it
I
comes
did say
to
so.
history. Um,
It's so normalized. Not, that's yeah. It's just like yeah, that's what we do, and it's not normalized at all. Hold on one moment. I'm still listening, but I have to multitask for like give me 3 to 4 minutes, but I'm still listening. Okay.
all right, so continuing on, I was talking about Eusebius of Caesarea. He was Eusebius of Pamphylia. Also, he was a bishop of Caesarea in Palestine. And he was also considered the father of church history. Um, he was a scholar and presbyter in the church at Caesarea. His major work was his history of the church, like I mentioned, and it was a massive piece of research that preserved quotations from older writers that would have been lost, specifically for researchers of Phoenician history. Now, the extracts from his book was from his book called Preparatio Evangelica, or Preparation for the Gospel. Um, now, uh, the, it's taken from a translation by E.H. Gifford in 1903, and it's a considerable gist of Phoenician theology that was made available. In fact, Phoenician history contained in his book is the oldest non-coded document of the Western what the Western world's historical archives has. Um, Furthermore, it is particularly valuable because its author, Cheniafion. I've always had a hard time saying his name, but that that is one of the references that he used in his argument, and is contained in his book.
And this was the guy who wrote the preparation of the gospel.
No, Santa Chananathian is an earlier writer that he used in his book as for quotation, or he quoted him in his book, and he was an earlier writer that was into Phoenician history, and Seneca Neafion, or Neafion, was he didn't believe in myths or anything of that nature. If you came to him with all of that, he'd turn you away. All he wanted to know and learn about was the truth about what actually happened.
Truth.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
Chenafion, he basically denounced myths, and he was a Phoenician writer, and he basically denounced myths